Tensions between Israel and Iran, simmering for decades, finally erupted in the summer of 2025. The world watched anxiously as the two regional powers edged closer to open conflict, with each side accusing the other of provocation and secret preparations for war. The immediate trigger was Israel's deepening fear of Iran's nuclear ambitions, which had long been a source of anxiety for Israeli leaders and citizens alike. The possibility of a nuclear-armed Iran was seen as a direct threat to Israel's very existence. For years, Israeli leaders from across the political spectrum had warned the world that they would never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. They viewed such a development as an existential threat, one that could tip the balance of power in the Middle East and embolden Iran's proxies. In early 2025, a series of alarming intelligence reports suggested that Iran was dangerously close to building a functional nuclear bomb. Satellite images, intercepted communications, and on-the-ground sources all pointed to rapid progress at several secret Iranian facilities, prompting urgent debate within Israel's security establishment. Israeli military planners concluded that waiting any longer would mean facing a nuclear-armed Iran, a scenario that would make any future military action far more dangerous, if not impossible. The risks of inaction, they argued, now outweighed the risks of a preemptive strike. The decision was made. Israel would launch a decisive, carefully coordinated strike to cripple Iran's nuclear infrastructure. The goal was to set back Iran's program by years, buying precious time and sending a clear message to Tehran and the world. With strong U.S. support and a hardline Israeli government in power, the June 13th strike was framed as an act of self-defense, not aggression. American officials provided intelligence and diplomatic backing, while Israel prepared for the international fallout. Israel calculated that a short, sharp war was preferable to living under the constant threat of a nuclear Iran. The hope was that by acting decisively, they could prevent a far more devastating conflict in the future, even as the region braced for the consequences. The war began before dawn on June 13, 2025, with Israel launching a massive surprise attack on Iran's military and nuclear sites. The operation was meticulously planned, involving months of intelligence gathering and strategic coordination. Elite Israeli jets, using advanced stealth technology, struck deep into Iran, aiming to inflict crippling damage. These jets, undetected by radar, managed to hit their targets with precision. The U.S. quickly joined, with B-2 bombers targeting Iran's most fortified nuclear facilities at Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. These bombers, known for their ability to carry heavy payloads, were crucial in the initial phase of the assault. This direct American involvement escalated the conflict into a global crisis. World leaders convened emergency meetings, and the international community watched in shock as the situation rapidly deteriorated. Israel also targeted Iran's missile plants, drone centers, and IRGC command hubs to degrade its ability to retaliate. These strikes were aimed at crippling Iran's military infrastructure and reducing its capacity for counterattacks. Explosions rocked Iranian cities and military bases, killing high-ranking IRGC commanders and atomic scientists. The loss of these key figures dealt a significant blow to Iran's strategic capabilities. Iran's government, caught off guard, struggled to respond as the scale of destruction became clear. The leadership was in disarray, trying to coordinate a response amidst the chaos. The opening wave marked a brutal start to a 12-day conflict that would reshape the region. The intensity and scale of the attacks left an indelible mark on the Middle East, setting the stage for a prolonged and devastating war. In the tense hours following the initial Israeli assault, Iran wasted no time in mounting a dramatic and overwhelming response. As the world watched in disbelief, the Iranian military unleashed a massive barrage of missiles, targeting Israel with a scale and intensity not seen in decades. The night sky over the region was lit up by the fiery trails of hundreds of ballistic missiles, a display of both power and desperation. Over the course of 12 relentless days, Iran launched more than 550 ballistic missiles toward Israeli territory. Israel's advanced air defense systems, including the Iron Dome and Arrow batteries, worked around the clock, intercepting wave after wave of incoming threats. Yet the sheer volume of missiles threatened to overwhelm even the most sophisticated defenses, forcing Israeli cities into a constant state of high alert. Despite the impressive interception rate, some missiles inevitably slipped through. Critical sites, such as the renowned Weizmann Institute as well as densely populated residential neighborhoods, suffered direct hits. The aftermath was devastating. buildings reduced to rubble, emergency crews racing against time, and families torn apart by sudden loss. Air raid sirens became a grim soundtrack to daily life, echoing through cities and towns at all hours. Civilians scrambled for shelter, businesses shuttered, and once bustling streets fell eerily silent. The relentless threat of attack paralyzed the economy and instilled a deep sense of fear and uncertainty across the nation. But Iran's campaign did not stop at Israel's borders. In a bold escalation, Iranian forces targeted the U.S. Al Udeid air base in Qatar, launching both missiles and drones. The message was clear. American forces stationed in the region were now within the crosshairs, and no military installation was truly safe. The attack on U.S. assets sent shockwaves through military and political circles in Washington. Heightened security measures were immediately put in place at American bases across the Middle East, and urgent meetings were convened at the Pentagon to assess the rapidly escalating crisis. The risk of a wider regional war loomed larger than ever. For Iran, this was more than just retaliation, it was a calculated strategy. By inflicting pain on its adversaries, rallying public support at home, and demonstrating resilience in the face of heavy losses, Iran sought to shift the balance of power and send a message of defiance to the world. The missile campaign shattered Israel's sense of invulnerability, leaving civilians traumatized and entire neighborhoods scarred. The cost of the conflict was measured not just in military terms, but in the lives disrupted and the deep psychological wounds inflicted on both sides. Iran's ability to retaliate with such force and coordination stunned observers around the globe. The scale of destruction and the speed of escalation ensured that this would be a bloody, costly war, one with consequences that would reverberate far beyond the Middle East. 12 days of fighting left deep scars on both nations. In Iran, nearly 1,000 were killed and over 5,000 wounded, including many civilians near targeted sites. Israeli missile strikes devastated neighborhoods and overwhelmed hospitals. In Israel, 29 people died and thousands were wounded, with millions living under constant threat. Property damage was extensive, halting both nations' economies. Iran's nuclear program and missile capabilities were severely damaged, but Israel paid a high price too, with critical infrastructure hit. Daily life was upended, internet blackouts in Iran, closed schools and businesses in Israel, the war's legacy trauma, loss and destruction that would linger long after the ceasefire. After 12 days, US-led diplomacy brokered a ceasefire, effective June 24, 2025. Relief swept the region, but the truce was shaky from the start, with immediate reports of violations on both sides. Military commanders scrambled to enforce the ceasefire, and large-scale attacks finally ceased. The agreement paused active combat but didn't resolve the core issues: nuclear ambitions and security fears. Both nations began assessing losses and rebuilding, but mistrust ran deep. The ceasefire was a pause, not a peace, born of exhaustion and international pressure. The underlying conflict remained unresolved, with both sides on high alert. Most saw the truce as temporary, a fragile pause in a long-running shadow war. During the war, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, vanished from public view, fueling rumors of injury or death. His absence created uncertainty as Iran faced crisis without its top authority. On July 5th, Khamenei reappeared at a religious ceremony in Tehran under heavy security, projecting stability and control. Before this, he released a defiant statement claiming victory and highlighting Iran's strike on the US base in Qatar. His return was carefully staged to rally support and quash rumors, but the tight security betrayed a sense of vulnerability. The war had shaken Iran's leadership, leaving the regime battered and its future uncertain. The war's main target was Iran's nuclear program, but its aftermath left the program shrouded in secrecy. Before the strikes, limited IAEA monitoring provided some transparency. Afterward, Iran suspended all cooperation with the IAEA, expelling inspectors and shutting off surveillance. The world lost visibility into Iran's nuclear activities, creating a dangerous intelligence vacuum. Israel claimed to have set the program back, but Iran insisted it retained its expertise and resolve. With inspections halted, the risk of miscalculation soared, and the threat of future conflict increased. The war meant to end Iran's nuclear ambitions may have only driven them deeper underground. The war sent shockwaves worldwide, exposing deep divisions and shifting alliances. The US and Israel defended their actions as necessary to prevent nuclear proliferation, celebrating their partnership. In contrast, the BRICS Plus bloc, including China, Russia and India, condemned the strikes as violations of international law. Iran capitalized on this support, portraying itself as a victim of Western aggression and strengthening ties with the global South. The conflict left Iran isolated from the West but closer to Russia and China, while US Gulf allies faced new pressures. The diplomatic battle raged on, with the world more polarized and nuclear non-proliferation in jeopardy. The fragile stability of the Middle East now depended on new, uncertain alliances. The fighting had stopped, but the region remained on a knife's edge.